Man's Search for Meaning is one of the 10 most influential books as voted by the United States Congress. It has been translated into 24 languages and is famous all over the world. The author, Viktor Frankl, was a renowned psychiatrist, known as a man with miraculous power of the 20th century. During the Nazi period, as a Jewish man, he was imprisoned in a concentration camp known as the Factory of Death. However, he not only survived inside that cage of hell, but also pioneered logotherapy, a method that rekindled the meaning of life for people in despair. This book is divided into 2 parts. The first part records the author's experiences inside the concentration camp. The second part combines his personal experience with academic knowledge to create a therapeutic method that helps people find meaning in rebirth from dead ends and rediscover their glorious steps in their own lives. If we had to summarize this book in 3 words, those words would be choice, suffering, and meaning. A famous Russian writer once said, "I have only one fear, that I am not worthy of the suffering I have endured. I have suffered too much, and I must find meaning in what I have experienced." How can suffering be transformed into meaning? Perhaps it is only one step away, a step called choice. And the distance between each of us differs in that single step. Across mountains and rivers in life, who does not cherish their own life? But when the storm passes and the rain has stopped, you will suddenly realize that all the pain you encountered in life was actually there to save you. If you are struggling with pain, with despair in life, if you are filled with confusion, sorrow, and fear, you may find strength in this book. Hello everyone. Welcome to Transcendence, a channel that shares knowledge for holistic personal development through good books. This week, I would like to share with you a topic titled, "Everything That Makes You Suffer Is Here to Save You," through the famous psychology book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Please listen. Everything can be taken away, except the freedom to choose choice. You can be deprived of everything, but you can never lose the freedom to choose. In the 1930s, all of Europe was engulfed in the terror of Nazi Germany. At that time, Frankl was the head of the neurology department at a hospital in Vienna, the capital of Austria, and he had a happy family. To protect Frankl's safety, the United States Embassy in Vienna offered him an immigration visa. However, he could not bear to abandon his parents, his family, and his patients. Therefore, he chose to stay. Only a few months later, Nazi Germany occupied Vienna. Frankl, his wife, his parents, and his siblings were all arrested and sent to concentration camps. Like Frankl, there were 1,500 other people who suffered the same fate. Many of them were businessmen, doctors, teachers, and scientific researchers. However, these people who once lived with dignity and were respected by society were turned into prisoners who were humiliated and trampled at will. They constantly faced the threat of gas chambers, crematoriums, or being beaten to death. All of their belongings were confiscated. They were locked up like livestock inside camps that resembled animal pens, each holding up to 200 people. Every day they were given only a small piece of bread and a bowl of soup. They wore only a single thin set of clothes and were forced to repair railways and tracks, performing heavy labor. At night, they curled up on wooden boards, 9 people sharing 2 blankets, using mud-covered shoes as pillows. If they were careless for even a moment, or happened to encounter guards in a bad mood, they would be beaten brutally. Even more terrifying, once their bodies collapsed and they could no longer perform hard labor, they would be sent into the gas chamber to end their lives. In the concentration camps, almost everyone had thought about suicide. The easiest way was to run into the electric fence. Ending life was not difficult. Continuing to live, surviving, was the hardest thing. So what was it that allowed Frankl not to lose his will to survive, and even strive to swim against the current and save his own life? For him, the first reason was the right to choose. He firmly believed that even under the worst psychological and physical conditions, human beings can still maintain a certain degree of spiritual freedom and independent consciousness. From this, they can choose their own behavior and responses and decide what kind of person they want to become. Pain does not destroy you, it strengthens you. Everything that makes you suffer will make you stronger. In 100 Years of Solitude, there is a line that says, "We walk along the eternal journey of life, running on rugged roads, reviving through failure, sorrow clinging to our bodies, pain scattered everywhere. We are exhausted, yet we cannot stop. We suffer, yet we cannot avoid suffering. Suffering is a normal part of life. When you truly understand this, your heart becomes calm and at the same time filled with strength to face challenges." Pain always has its positive side. Just as a great poet once said, "Remember carefully everything that suffering leaves behind. When suffering passes, it becomes sweet. Life is like a seasoning. The more it is crushed, the richer its flavor becomes." Although Frankl had a strong desire to live, the daily torture still pushed him into despair at times. Like many other prisoners, he suffered from severe swelling, illness caused by long-term hunger, lack of clothing, and sleep deprivation. His feet were swollen, his knees could not bend, and thorns pierced his soles. Every step he took was extremely painful. Later, when he was assigned to care for patients, he unfortunately contracted typhus and was nearly sent to the crematorium. Standing on the edge of death again and again made him begin to rethink the meaning of life. He observed all kinds of people in the concentration camp and realized that as long as a person still carried the image of a loved one in their heart, they would never give up on life. Therefore, he decided not to let himself die from exhaustion or illness, but to treat the concentration camp as a place to practice and refine the mind. When other prisoners became numb and lost themselves, he taught them to bypass suffering with humor. When prisoners felt hopeless and wanted to give up, he encouraged them with meaningful speeches. Even when he was suffering from typhus and could be killed at any time, he continued to write notes on scraps of paper, preparing to publish his psychological book in the future. 3 years of imprisonment made his heart stronger and stronger. At the same time, he gained a deep understanding of human nature, which later allowed him to develop a unique psychological therapy. It was physical suffering that ignited his boundless spiritual strength. A thinker once said, "Only after experiencing hell-like suffering can one develop the strength to create heaven. After bone-piercing cold, red roses bloom in the wind. After the pain of broken wings, the eagle can soar high. We are always afraid of failure, afraid of crisis, afraid of suffering. Yet we do not realize that it is precisely these bitter and painful experiences that create the path for us to rise. The people you grit your teeth to endure, the things that make you suffer, will all turn into nourishment that helps you be reborn. There is no pain that cannot be healed. There is no collapse that cannot end. Everything that is lost will return in another form. Human nature seeks advantage and avoids disadvantage. But when we understand that only in hardship do people gain the chance for spiritual transcendence, we will no longer see suffering as a disaster, nor feel unlucky when facing adversity. A person who knows why they live can endure anyhow. A person who has a reason to live can endure anything. This is a quote by Nietzsche, and it is also the motto Frankl used to explain the importance of the meaning of life. After all suffering, there is meaning. In the concentration camp, Frankl witnessed many people die, not because of hunger or lack of medicine, but because they had no reason to continue living. Statistics showed that the death rate in concentration camps was highest around Christmas. The same phenomenon occurred on the battlefields of World War II. Most prisoners believed they would return home before Christmas, but when that hope collapsed, their spirits collapsed as well. Mental breakdown caused the immune system to weaken severely, which eventually led to death. In modern life, the same thing happens. Many people suffer from depression and psychological disorders because they cannot find the meaning of life. They lose direction in a society where they feel they exist, yet remain invisible. Therefore, Frankl proposed a viewpoint. What allows people to continue living is not hope, but meaning. Human beings live to search for the meaning of their own lives. For humanity, this is even more important than pursuing pleasure or avoiding pain. In the book, the author proposed 3 different ways to help us find the meaning of life. The first is to create work filled with dedication or to pursue a specific career. Simply put, this is achievement through work. The second is to experience care, concern, and love for a specific person. The third is to adopt an attitude of courage, to face difficulties, hardships, and critical moments in life. Nothing in this world helps a person survive more effectively than realizing that their life has meaning. The meaning of life includes a broad cycle from birth to death, containing hardship and suffering. Therefore, open your heart and experience this life, no matter how much pain or happiness it contains. How much you can endure determines how much you can achieve. How much you can endure, that is how much you can achieve. After being liberated from the concentration camp in 1945, Frankl found himself overwhelmingly lonely. His parents, his younger brother, and his beloved wife, who was pregnant, had all died in prison from illness and starvation. The fellow prisoners who survived with him had migrated to other countries. With no relatives and no friends, Frankl decided to return to his old profession as a psychiatrist to help people who were mentally traumatized by the war. He devoted himself to his work, combining his personal experience with academic knowledge to create logotherapy. Through lectures and psychological counseling, he helped many people. Parents who wanted to commit suicide after losing their children, husbands who could not let go of their deceased wives, and countless strangers living in confusion. He rewrote the manuscript that had been confiscated when he entered the concentration camp and completed man's search for meaning in just 9 days. In the decades that followed, he wrote more than 30 books and traveled around the world to give lectures. His experience of escaping death ignited a great passion for life within him. He was always willing to experience new things at any time. At the age of 67, he began learning how to fly an airplane and obtained a pilot's license within a few months. At the age of 80, he boldly challenged himself with outdoor sports and climbed the highest and largest mountain range in Europe. Even past the age of 90, he continued speaking with patients from all over the world and personally replied to letters every week to help people answer their questions. Many people were deeply moved by his experiences and actions. Universities such as Harvard, Stanford, and other prestigious institutions invited him to serve as a professor. Famous politicians, philosophers, and even Pope John Paul II read his books and traveled from afar to visit him. It can be said that war destroyed Frankl's life and took away his loved ones. But he chose to step out of the ruins of suffering and alive, radiant like a halo. There is a saying, "Suffering is a springboard for genius, fortune for the capable, and an abyss for the weak." Pain is always a trial, a compulsory course in life. How much pain you can endure determines how much achievement you can attain. From choice to transcending suffering to finally comprehending the great meaning of life, Frankl's life has left an immortal source of inspiration for millions of people around the world. The logotherapy he founded continues and will continue to help humanity. If you are interested in psychology or have followed psychology book series shared by Paraversion, you may notice that, compared to psychoanalysis, logotherapy does not focus excessively on confronting the past and inner trauma, but mainly looks toward the future and the purpose of existence. Freud believed that the goal of existence was the pursuit of pleasure. Adler believed it was the pursuit of superiority and overcoming inferiority. Frankl believed it was the pursuit of meaning. Searching for meaning in life is the primary driving force of human existence. An author once wrote, "Human life is like a surging river. Without reefs and shoals, how could there be magnificent waves? Without the tempering of nature, how could there be fragrant flowers, birds in the sky, and fish in the water? Life becomes better when we actively temper ourselves in hardship. Only by crossing depths we have never experienced can we climb peaks that once seemed impossible. When a person succeeds in finding meaning, they will not only feel happiness, but also gain the strength to face all difficulties in life." May all of us, when facing hardship, suffering, and failure, turn to man's search for meaning, and like Frankl, rise above suffering, cultivate inner strength, remain creative, and live with passion. Live your present life as if you were living it for the second time. And if you wish to further understand logotherapy, you may also explore Prisoners of Our Thoughts, which was shared in a previous video by Paraversion. This book is special because its two authors sought Frankl to continue researching logotherapy, helping people apply it to real life. Fortunately, a publishing house has acquired the copyright to translate this book into Vietnamese. Although I currently do not have enough time to participate in this meaningful work, this book will soon be available in Vietnamese bookstores. I hope it brings you great inner strength and wisdom to move forward through difficulties and live in the present. Finally, this week's video comes to an end. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Support the channel with a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to watch new videos every week. Once again, thank you, and see you in the next video.